French President Emmanuel Macron and European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen are holding a conference in Paris. West believes Putin cannot agree to peace due to threat of domestic political issues and Kursk operation that has achieved most of its objectives in 9 months. The latest news next. French President Emmanuel Macron and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen are hosting a Paris conference Monday to attract US researchers ready to relocate because of President Donald Trump's policies. European commissioners, scientists, and ministers for research from member countries will discuss, among other things, financial incentives at the gathering to lure disgruntled American scientists across the Atlantic. Paris Sorbonne University is hosting the conference called Choose Europe for Science, which is to close with speeches by Macron and von der Leyen. Under Trump, universities and research facilities in the United States have come under increasing political and financial pressure, including from threats of massive federal funding cuts. Research programs face closure, tens of thousands of federal workers have been fired, while foreign students fear possible deportation for their political views. The European Union hopes to offer an alternative for researchers and, by the same token, defend our strategic interests and promote a universalist vision, an official in Macron's office told AFP. The French president had already last month appealed to foreign, notably US researchers, to choose France and unveiled plans for a funding program to help universities and other research bodies cover the cost of bringing foreign scientists to France. European Defense Commissioner Andrius Kubilius has stated that Europe can significantly strengthen military support for Ukraine by purchasing weapons directly from Ukrainian manufacturers. Kubilius said the US and the European allocate around 40 billion euros annually for military assistance to Ukraine. However, he said these funds could be used more efficiently by directly procuring weapons from Ukrainian manufacturers.
If Putin isn't convinced by Trump to make peace, we could bring forward more convincing arguments for peace very quickly by greatly increasing our military support to Ukraine.
Kubilius explained that the cost of weapons produced in Ukraine is approximately half the price of similar weapons from Europe or the US. Thus, the volume of weapons provided to Ukraine could effectively be doubled without increasing spending. Our support's real value would rise to 80 billion euros, he concluded. Kubilius paid particular attention to a new instrument, Security Action for Europe, SAFE loans, which allows member states to finance military purchases for Ukraine. In his view, this opens the way to implementing a peace through strength, strategy. Safe loans mean strength for Ukraine, he emphasized. For reference, Ukrainian high-ranking officials have repeatedly called on European governments to join the so-called Danish model of assistance to Ukraine. This model involves funding military support through dedicated funds, focusing on the purchase of weapons directly from Ukraine. The Netherlands, Norway, and Czechia have supported the initiative. Europe considers this scheme to be the basis of a long-term strategy for military aid to Ukraine. The United States has been urging Russia to stop its aggression against Ukraine and agree to a peace deal. Meanwhile, there has been growing conviction within Western government circles that Russian dictator Vladimir Putin's regime is unable to end the war without serious political consequences inside the country, reported by German tabloid Bild. About details, Bild noted that Russia shows no willingness to compromise despite international pressure. According to Bild, high-ranking Western government circles believe the reason lies in deep internal factors, political, economic, and social.
This is because Russia has not yet achieved its military objectives. The defense industry has been inflated with huge investments. Hundreds of thousands of Russians are making good money from the war. All of this makes it very difficult for Putin to find a path to compromise.
According to Russian economists, if the sectors dominated by the defense industry are excluded from the analysis, Russia's economy is effectively in a state of recession. A downturn is evident in many industries such as food production, coal, building materials, metal products, and machinery manufacturing. Production is falling, only the defense industry is masking the decline, Bild said. According to economist Alexandra Prokopenko from the Carnegie Russia Eurasia Center, who worked at the Central Bank of Russia until 2022, the belief that ending the war would automatically lead to the collapse of the defense industry is exaggerated. Experts believe that an additional threat to Putin's regime comes from war veterans. Many of them, upon returning from the line of contact, may become a source of social instability, especially in regions with low living standards and limited economic prospects. Dealing with veterans returning after the end of the war is likely to become a challenge for Putin, said Margaret Klein, an expert on Russia at the German Institute for International and Security Affairs.
Those who went to the line of contact as volunteers often received payments several times higher than the average salary. This concerns not only increased wages, but also one-off recruitment bonuses amounting to over 40,000 euros.
According to her, the risk of a wave of violence increases if the Kremlin cannot offer these people an economic future.
The number of violent crimes has increased since Russia's full-scale invasion. There is a real danger that some of the veterans, like those who fought in Afghanistan or Chechnya, will become involved in organized crime.
Alexander Syrsky, commander-in-chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, has stated that the operation in Russia's Kursk region, ongoing for 9 months, has achieved most of its objectives and the buffer zone established by Ukrainian forces remains relevant, reported by Syrsky on Facebook.
This Kursk operation, which has been underway for 9 months, has achieved most of its objectives. Thanks to our active operations in Kursk Oblast, we prevented the Russians from launching an offensive campaign in Sumy and Kharkiv oblasts. The buffer zone established by Ukraine's defense forces in the border areas remains relevant today.
The commander-in-chief stated that a numerically superior opponent can only be defeated through unconventional actions.
The Kursk operation was exactly that. It came as a surprise to the Russians. Ukraine has shown that it is capable of counterattacking, striking, and pushing the Russians back, including on their own territory.
He noted that this success was made possible thanks to specific military units and soldiers. Syrsky said that during his working visit, he presented awards to servicemen who distinguished themselves in the Kursk operation. He named the 225th Separate Assault Regiment as one of the units that performed its tasks in Kursk region with quality and efficiency. Syrsky added, and now when we talk about successful active defense in northern Ukraine and the border areas of Russia, that's primarily about the 225th. Support Ukraine. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Like and subscribe.